Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision further down the road. Today, we'll be talking about an e-commerce business for sale, and I have the seller with me today. So welcome to the show, Matt, and how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Thanks a lot. And thanks for taking the time to speak with me today. We're really looking forward to talking about your business. Just before we dive deeper in, let me give a brief summary of your business for our listeners. So today's listing is an e-commerce business that was created in December 2013 in the automotive niche. The average monthly revenue for the business is $22,851, and it makes an average of $4,892 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are a domain and all of the site's contents and files, an additional domain with all of the site's contents and files as well, an email list with over 3,000 subscribers that's hosted on Wix, a trademark, social media accounts, supply contracts and relationships, and an Amazon FBM account. Please note that inventory isn't normally included in the listing price, and further details can be provided to active buyers. You can head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 52624 to learn more about the business, or you can unlock the listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So Matt, that's a very general overview about the business, but let's talk about yourself. Let's find out about you. Can you share with me your background in building or running online businesses? Is this your first one, or have you been doing this for a while?
Well, I've been doing it for a while, and it's all in the same business. This is my first business I ever tried to start. So back in 2013, I kind of got a wild idea to start my own business, and I just had e-commerce in mind at that time in general. And I've been experimenting a lot, finding out what works, and kind of just learning by making lots of mistakes. So I've built it up to what it is today, and I'm pretty proud of it.
No, that's great to hear. You've definitely done a lot of work with it over all these years. Can you share with me why e-commerce? Like, why this specific business model?
Well, it really kind of just fit what I was trying to do. I was working full time, working hard and making ends meet. But, I always thought it would be fulfilling, profitable, sell something that I was passionate about. So I found a product that I thought was really cool, and I thought, wow, I bet people will be looking for these. They could use these products. It's at a good price point, and they're impressive. When you get them in person and you hold them in your hand, it's like, wow, this is way cooler than I expected. So I knew it would be something I'd enjoy, and it ended up being a lot of work, that's for sure, and it's taught me a lot. But I'd say that just being able to every day talk to people and handle these products for me was just really fun. There's a lot of work, and I realized that wasn't necessarily practical to be doing it all day. So obviously as time went on, I found that as much as I enjoy e-commerce, continued to work a full-time job in e-commerce at the same time. It taught me how to separate myself and create a well-oiled machine, so to speak, that kind of can run somewhat independently. So that's what kind of drew me to e-commerce to begin with.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that there are a few different components to your business. Can you briefly share, how does your business primarily make money?
Well, I primarily make most of my money off of Wix e-commerce website. That's the original site I started back in 2014. It's not terribly different than Shopify. It's got more, basically, the website you can almost build like a set of Legos almost. It's kind of fun, and at first it's looking kind of ridiculous, but the website's gone through several versions over the years, and I've made all of them myself. I've never hired anybody to do it. I taught myself how to do it. So that is a product of lots of trial and error. And that's where I do the vast majority of my business. I've recently started a Shopify website that is actually doing really well. Just started it in March So it's not even 2 months old. It's exceeded my expectations so far. I think the Shopify platform has more potential than Wix. So had decided to keep the business. That's something I would be building up more and more. But for right now, Shopify is a small percentage. The websites are very similar, basically the same products, very little difference. They appear a little bit differently. I think the Shopify site looks a little bit better. That's kind of just a matter of opinion. And I sell also on Amazon. I've kind of dabbled in Amazon a little bit. I just dedicated majority of my time and energy to my e-commerce sites, Wix and Shopify, just because I really like to handle the customer service myself. And, with Amazon, to do fulfilled by merchant, just because I can be kind of a control freak sometimes. So I like to would get in there and do all that myself. But those are the three channels. I've dabbled in eBay in the past as well. I do have an eBay account, but it's not really active. But the highest profits and my favorite part of the business is definitely my two e-commerce sites.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it sounds like the Shopify site is definitely an interesting area to explore. And that's included in the sale, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Why did you choose to set up this business in the automotive niche?
Well, I've always been into cars. I've always worked on cars. This product, you don't have to know anything about cars. I mean, it comes with a set of instructions, but people have no issue operating it themselves. But I've always been drawn to that kind of category. So this product is something that I had seen around, and it's typically very expensive. I was able to find a supplier that was able to make very good products at a very affordable price. And that's kind of where my niche falls into, is normally very expensive product that people generally think is very expensive, but I'm able to actually make very healthy margins at fractions of the price of what people typically expect. And they get the same, if not better, performance than they were expecting, which is great. And, I got off topic a little bit on you there, but, I think cars naturally draw people in. And so with this kind of product, with an easy addition on there, it definitely drew me just because it's just really cool. I mean, what else can you say?
Yeah, gotcha. So it definitely sounds like there was some interest on your side as well. Like you say, you found a potential market for yourself as you were exploring, the different categories within the automotive niche, which is great. I mean, our listeners are going to be wondering, Matt, why are you selling the business right now instead of staying with it and growing it?
I actually recently just had a baby, January 31st. And that's the best answer I can give, because even though I run the business full time, I still work full time. My full time job I'm also really passionate about, and I've also been doing really well in. I'd say the business definitely has way more potential for me financially, but with my kind of hands-on controlled personality and kind of obsessive nature, it has a tendency, even though the business operates independently, it takes very little effort. It takes up a lot of space in my mind, and now that I have this little baby here, I kind of would like to unload as many responsibilities as I can. So as the older I get, because this business is 7 years old, the older I get, the less important, I guess, that finances really are. We live comfortably, and, I'm going to choose the path at this point. I think that is a little bit easier on me. Not so many opportunities for me to obsess over, an e-commerce website. I kind of would like to take up some more calming activities, I guess you could say, gardening, hiking, things like that. I think I might want to just leave the e-commerce life behind me.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I guess, first of all, congratulations on the new addition to the family. Yeah, as a father myself, I'm also aware of how much time and energy it takes to raise a little one up. So definitely makes sense that time's going to be premium all the more now. So that's great to hear. Let me dig into your, the history and your experience. As you're scaling this business, is there anything that you learned that you would apply to future sites or businesses?
Oh, yes. I mean, where could I begin? I mean, with so many years running this business, I've pushed and pulled and tried different markets and different ways to advertise and different ways to fulfill orders. And overall, I'd say if I could go back in time and tell my past self, some tactics and strategies to grow the business. Number one would be to be patient, especially with e-commerce. You can go from, an average website to an outstanding website, and you kind of expect, okay, look at this outstanding website, sales are just going to come flooding in over the next 24 hours, and I'm just going to be able to retire next week. And it just doesn't work that way, at least for me in the past. Being a little impatient has kind of caused me to experiment too much at one time. And it becomes difficult to find out what's working and what's not. Being patient was definitely one of the big things. And another huge turning point for me was being able to disconnect myself from the site. I find the more responsibility that I delegate to, like as far as having my shipping done by a 3PL and having my SEO, having a freelancer optimize my Google Ads campaigns, or having a freelancer make listings on Amazon. Every time that I spend a little bit of money having a professional or just virtual assistant handle something, that's when my business really started to take off. So basically, the less I do, the more successful it is. So I would say being creative and then sticking to that, coming up with basic outline content, and then get someone else that's better at it than I am to put everything together. That's my other huge takeaway. Like going forward in e-commerce in the future, which realistically I might probably start another website in the future because that's just who I am. I can't sit still too long. But those would be my two major, lessons and strategies: just to be patient, creative, delegate, and find people who are better than me to help me run the business, build the business. And those would be some of my guiding principles that I feel like if I had to go back in time and tell myself when I started the business, I'd probably be a millionaire by now. But I had a lot of mistakes to make first.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely some really great advice, especially for people who are new to online businesses. As you were learning about online businesses and e-commerce, were there any resources that really helped you, just get up to scratch and really skill up in this area?
Yes, when I was on my way to work and when I had time off, I would listen to different podcasts and, most of it on YouTube, on everything from building websites to SEO to product logistics, things like that. Unfortunately, I decided to go to the School of Hard Knocks to learn most of my lessons. I kind of have a tendency to just kind of make my own rules as I go along. So a lot of the strategies that I had for the business and short-term marketing, things like that, kind of just things I came up with and thought would be a good idea. So a lot of the business tactics I've learned over the years have I would say the vast majority have been from trial and error. But I do really like to listen to experienced people talk. And I'd say I definitely wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't spent a lot of time listening to the before me, who had started sites, failed, and who had made it big. So at this point in the business, the sky's the limit. It's got so much potential, so many ideas that I have. I've got a lot of experience and knowledge that would continue to do great things, and I think the year-over-year growth would be tremendous. But that's just not the decision that I've decided to make. So maybe one day I'll be able to put that knowledge to use. But for now, I think I'll just kind of hold on to it.
Yeah, I think that's some really good advice. There's definitely a ton of resources out there in terms of podcasts, so that's a really good shout as well. I wanted to ask you, Matt, because you shared about what works for you in terms of scaling the business. Was there anything that you tried that didn't really give you the ROI that you were hoping for?
Yes, actually, for years and years, I had, we'd hit plateaus with sales. I think all e-commerce sites kind of go through that. You hit plateaus and you'll have a great month followed by a really terrible month. And, I would always blame the website really for that happening. And the ROI was always just below what I wanted it to be. And just recently, actually, as I stated earlier, how much more successful I am when I actually get someone who's better than me to look into something. When I started hiring a freelancer on a monthly basis to go in and optimize Google Ads, what I was finding is that the majority of my customers are actually people buying from the business. My best customers with the highest return on investment are business customers. And just so happens that the vast majority of the time they're using a desktop computer. So that was a way that I found to target business owners, was by having my Google Ads campaigns focused on desktop users. And once I figured that out, which I honestly didn't figure out, I would say until really March of this year, it's cut my advertising costs in half. And earlier this year, raised my prices just in anticipation of the difficulty in shipping that is out there now. And raising prices and a slight drop of revenue, the profits are higher than ever. And actually, my Google Ads I cut by almost about 65%. They're out there. They're running a business. They need this product. And usually, they don't know they need it till they need it. So they Google me. My Google ad pops up, and they buy. So what I was finding was that those customers are almost 14 times more likely to buy than a customer on a mobile phone. And so although the Google Ads campaigns were working fine before with mostly mobile traffic, once I switched to really targeting desktop, I just really can't overstate how important that really was to really unlocking the business's potential.
Thanks for sharing that. Just want to touch on the fact you were mentioning about paid advertising. Where does the majority of your traffic come from? Is it organic search or paid advertising or a mix of everything?
The majority of my traffic still currently is Google Ads. I was able to, like I said, this year cut the cost in half. It was a little bit expensive before, which is really cut into profits. But I would say Google Ads can be anywhere between 60 to 70% of my organic traffic, however, is doubling in less than a year over year. So I would say this time 2 years ago, I was averaging around, I'd have to check the analytics for exact numbers, but I was probably getting, maybe 3 to 5 clicks a day organically. And now I get it can be as low as 30, but it can be as high as 60 clicks a day. That's actually very high for my company because the majority of my sales, the items I sell are pricey. So we generate a 2% conversion rate for all traffic. So with 100 organic clicks, and that's 2 sales, my sales are typically average between $300 to $500 a piece. So it really doesn't take much traffic, as long as it's the right traffic, to generate some great sales. So with the Google Ads being $1 a click, I think I have some that are a little bit more expensive, maybe up to $1.50 a click. Spending $1.50 to make $500 and I've made much, much more on a regular basis than off of one click. Google Ads is a perfect fit for my business because it really doesn't make sense financially to wait for the SEO to generate organic traffic, over a couple of years when I can pay a relatively small amount with Google Ads and get an insane return on investment.
Mm-hmm. And what do you currently do in terms of marketing for the business right now then?
It's really just the Google Ads. And I do some SEO keyword optimization on the site myself. I'm ranking pretty high on some good keywords for that. So when Google's searching for my most popular product, my most expensive product, and my very unique product that I kind of came up with myself, if you Google that organically, I'm several of the first search results. And even some of my Amazon listings come up in Google organic search. So it's basically just Google Ads and SEO optimization. I really haven't gotten into social media too much. I really don't like social media myself. It's just not my personality, and I really should. I'd say that's definitely a big opportunity for the buyer. I have a Facebook for the business. I have a YouTube channel I pretty much just use to host my videos so I can attach them to the website and so people can see the products being used. But I never realized the advertising potential of YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. But I just, as you probably gathered so far, I've got a lot of different focuses going on, and I really only allow myself to dedicate a small percentage of my brain power to the business a day. So I just haven't taken the time to develop that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. How much work is required to maintain the business? Can you briefly describe what happens on a day-to-day or a weekly basis?
Sure. So most days I wake up in the morning, enter in any orders that came in the evening before or the night of. I would say typically, sometimes none, sometimes no orders. And a business voicemail, I'll check as well, call back any customers. I'd say more often than not, I don't have any first thing in the morning, but usually throughout the day, I'll have maybe, if it's a really good day, 4 or 5 orders come in a day. And I'll try to add them in as they come in. I've got 3PL software that's really easy to use. It takes me about 3 or 4 minutes for each order. And then I'll call back a customer and talk to them if they have any concerns. But I would say I'd average about 0 to could be as high as 3 voicemails a day. So I don't have any outsourced customer service. I do that myself. That was next on the agenda to kind of outsource. So, I would say in total, just running the business, it would be no more than an hour a day. I'd say an hour max. And then I just do Monday through Friday regular business hours. I would say on average, maybe 3 to 4 hours a week just to kind of keep the business running. All those things I just mentioned can be handled by a virtual assistant, but I just haven't came up with the standard operating procedures and haven't written it down yet, really. So I could be confidently allow a third party to do that. Like I said, control freak, I can't help it. But other than that, when I have spare time or I'm feeling particularly motivated, if I have 2 cups of coffee, I'll get in there and say, okay, well, let me do some SEO, and I'll even come up with product bundles, which usually will get people excited. They'll come in and they'll see monthly special, and I'll basically just combine 2 products, and then I'll kind of get creative and I'll do a little photoshopping. I'm a kind of a Photoshop amateur, but I can do it just enough to make it look interesting and it doesn't look like, a third grader did it. All of that stuff is kind of just ways that I've kind of expanded the website and grew it over the years. It's just kind of sitting down and saying, okay, let me mess with it. There's really nothing complicated about it. I would say to keep the business healthily growing, probably want to invest at least, 3 to 4 additional hours a week into kind of SEO optimization and, developing the website and managing inventory, which is, it's all accounted for in the 3PL, so I don't have to go around count inventory myself or anything like that. So periodically I will check that. I'll see, okay, I'm getting kind of low on one particular product, and I usually order everything in bulk in 40-foot shipping containers directly from the manufacturer. But I'll communicate with my seller. We use WeChat. He'll answer 24/7. He's a really great guy. I kind of just tell him what I need. He puts everything together for me and says, we'll get it out. They take care of everything for me, send it straight to the 3PL. So that takes very little of my time either. It's really just a matter of having a quick conversation. He knows my products up and down. He's kind of product expert. I would say he's the clone of me, but overseas. So I think that will help the buyer as well. Without getting too far off topic, there's really not much time needed to continue operating the business as it is. And just the nature of the business, it's a growing market. The business will continue growing, I would say, even if you don't touch it. To be honest, I wouldn't. If I was going forward from now, I would probably just leave it alone and continue filling orders and keep the stock replenished and just let it run because, at this point, it's a really well-oiled machine. Just some minor tweaks, I think, needed.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's a pretty hands-off operation at this point. If you did stay with the business, Matt, what are some of the ways that you try to grow it?
To be honest, I would let the business continue going as it is. I have several of my best-selling products that are actually currently out of stock. They're a very unique product, actually, that you can't get anywhere else. It was a unique idea. I actually should patent, to be honest. The resources to do that right now are kind of difficult. But I've got a lot of customers that are still ordering them, and I basically just have to charge an extra premium fee over top of the normal price and explain to them that, hey, I'm going to have the manufacturer make them and send them to you directly, and they're totally happy with that. So that's the way that I continue selling them. I have them currently on a shipping container, probably in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean right now, that are on their way here. So they will be back in stock within the next 30 days. And when that happens, the sky's the limit, really. I've never had all of these products in stock at one time. Over the years, I've regularly ran into cash flow problems just from trying to expand and trying to basically, I would end up buying too much inventory and it would leave me kind of cash strapped. And so then while I was getting that inventory, I'd run out of some other inventory. And I don't think there's ever been a time since I've been in business that I've ever had all my best-selling profitable products in stock at one time. The first time I think it's ever going to happen is going to be next month. Maybe by the end of this month, I've got to check on the progress of that container of inventory. But my plan would be to leave it alone, fulfill orders, keep the customers happy, respond to customer service inquiries, and make sure that the website stays optimized. But I would say this summer is going to be record-breaking sales for the company with whoever owns it. So that would be my advice, to leave it alone and let it go. And once you get those products in stock, go ahead and mark them in stock and watch the sales come in.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Definitely sounds like whoever picks it up in the near future will enjoy the summer sales. I guess with all businesses, there's always going to be inherent risk involved, right? So what would you say are some of the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
Well, I would say probably the biggest risk, I think, is a risk that all e-commerce businesses are having right now, and that's that shipping's getting somewhat expensive. I know there was a ship stuck in the Suez Canal and everything rolls downhill. I'm not sure, but I'm paying considerably more for a 40-foot shipping container than I was at this time 2 years ago. So I guess rising shipping prices are driving cost of goods sold up. For me, even though the shipping container is much more expensive, it's still just a fraction of the total cost of my goods sold. So for example, one product that has a cost of goods sold, it was $166. So over the past 2 years, I had to raise it to $183. So that's less than $20, and that product sells for $409. So It's still a small percentage, so it's not too terrible, a little bit off the bottom line. But luckily, with my business, since it's an e-commerce business, I don't really mess with Amazon too much. I am my own boss, so I'm not at the whims of some of the risks that like an Amazon account has, and I'm pretty diversified. I think a risk would be like, for example, if Wix's domain went down, that would be a big risk. But luckily, I'm diversified enough where now I do have a Shopify store going now, and I still got the Amazon store. But other than that, I'd say another risk that I think all e-commerce stores have is just the risk that, the manufacturer could close up, or, something could happen between the relationship between the U.S. and China, making it really difficult. I guess those are always a risk. But with my manufacturer, with our relationship, which will pass to the new buyer, we have such a good working relationship. We work together so well. He's always answers 24/7 on just a text message. Basically, he speaks perfect English. He actually even visited me back in December. He came in person, and they are a true factory. And he actually slips me little secrets here and there about my competitors that he knows about, because being over there on the ground in China, he tells me how much my competitors are paying, what they're not paying. So I have a lot of intel that I get. So if for some reason he were to leave that company or anything else were to happen, obviously that's a risk if I were to lose him, really, because I would say he's probably one of the most valuable assets that my business that it has, because just the wealth of knowledge, information, the reliability, I would actually put that as my number one biggest risk. Would be if for some reason he were to decide to get another job, although my relationship would continue with the company, I've worked with a lot of salespersons and wholesalers and everything, and he's just so good that, that would make things, I think, a little difficult. But that's all I can really think of. I think overall it's a very low risk business model I have. The product that I'm selling is something that could never go away. It's just so absolutely necessary. And they're products that are only growing in demand with modern society. And so it's very stable. I'm not under the thumb of any other larger companies. I'm my own boss. I can handle any complaints that come in myself. So yeah, I think that's definitely a big strength of this business, is that, it's pretty solid. I wouldn't count on anything any likely difficulties that I can think of.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Last few questions from me, Matt. How much support are you offering buyers?
I was going to be flexible on that. I've been kind of thinking I'm really fine with, putting down an official, number, I would say, of like, a couple emails a week or even a phone call. I really don't mind. This is a product that I'm passionate about, and it really wouldn't bother me to hop on a phone call on fairly short notice to help out with a question or an idea. I would say on an official basis, I would offer 2 phone calls that are maybe less than 30 minutes a piece, I would say, for 3 months. I think that would be really, really helpful to the new buyer. Again, keeping in mind that my manufacturer will talk to you as long as you want to. He's excited. He's passionate about these products as well. He's got lots of ideas. He knows all of my ideas because I've got a whole treasure chest full of ideas I've already told him about and we talk about. So a lot of the thinking, a lot of great ideas have kind of already been laid down. So when I'm not able to be reached, he is. I don't know when the guy sleeps, but like I said, I'm pretty open if it's necessary. If there's a major issue that is encountered, it's really not a problem. I would even be open, to have to the buyer just having my phone number and be able to send me a text message when necessary, with reasonable hours in mind. That's no problem.
It's great to hear. Are you willing to commit to a non-compete?
Of course.
Awesome. And are you open to negotiating seller financing? Something like an earn-out?
Yeah, I'd certainly be willing to entertain that.
That's awesome. Well, I guess last question from me then, Matt. If you were to put yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why would you say that this is a business that's worth buying?
I would say that as far as getting into an online business, I really don't think you're going to find one that would be easier to run and operate with as little risk as mine, and with such a strong framework really already built for the company, and with so many resources. I'll be available for help. My manufacturer will always be available for help, since with the way that the company is set up, just very few sales generate a lot of revenue. So just that in and of itself means that there's a very low requirement for hours that are needed to be invested. the time spent can be reduced even more by just simply hiring a virtual assistant to handle customer service. So there's so little work required as it is, and it's so close to being able to be refined with some very simple moves and improvement. So basically, in summary, it's an extremely reliable business with low risk. It's very profitable. It's as profitable as it's ever been. It's got completely unique one-off products that could be patented if that was what the buyer wanted to do. They can be expanded to Amazon. Not right now. And wow, I could just talk all day. I'm really proud of what I did here. I think maybe one day in the future I might be able to duplicate it. But I think it'd be a great starter business, or even for someone who's run businesses before. I think they'll be able to see it for what it is. It's just a solid framework to build way more onto.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and we definitely wish you all the best. Hope that you can replicate its success and even exceed it with your future efforts. Is there anything you'd like to share that you think I might have missed?
Like I said, I can talk all day about it, but I think, with the questions you asked, I think it gave me the opportunity to kind of, explain what I'm all about, my background, and, what the business is all about. So I think it's pretty well covered.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Matt, thanks for joining me on today's episode, and we hope that your business gets picked up in the very near future by the right buyer.
Looking forward to it. It's been nice talking to you.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 52624. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked the listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.